Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hi, have you ever done a public speaking? I believe most of you will say yes. Public speaking is a process of speaking in front of a group of people or audience. For the next few minutes, we will discuss about public speaking. But before we have a further discussion, I would like to say hello. I am Pradnya Paramita Dewi. I am an English lecturer. We will discuss about public speaking, especially presentation. Now, the word presentation, what is in your mind? Okay, I have a little research that have been done with my students. For the first time, I show them the words presentation. All they think is about audience, self-confidence, content, nervous, and stage fright, and even thrill. Okay, it is naturally happen for all people. Okay, then what should you do to make or to create a good presentation in front of your audience? Here is the thing that you have to notice. Choose interesting content, which is the most important part before you starting preparing a presentation. And then the second important part will be recognize the audience. It helps you to choose the dixies and also the keyword before you make or create a good presentation. So make sure you recognize your audience, what level of society they are in, and so on. Okay? And then the next, you have to do preparation. The last is practice. If you do a lot of practice, you can, let's say, conquer the stage. Next, if you want to have a fluent presentation in front of the audiences, I suggest you to follow these tips. Okay, the first, self-confidence. What does it mean? You have to deal with your own self to know how far you are ready in front of your audience. You can convince yourself that you are able to speak in front of the audience, that you are able to conquer the stage, that you are able to manage and control your body movement, for example, and also about your speech. The next is vocal. You need to do a little vocal practice. It is in the term of volume. What does it mean? You have to speak in the medium volume. Don't be too loud or too low because it can distract the audience focus. And then stressing. Make a stressing when you do a presentation is very important. It shows the most important part on your presentation. And then next is intonation. Make sure that the intonation of your presentation is fluctuative. Means that you can modify the intonation into raising and into falling. I believe if you do a precise intonation on your presentation or your performance will not boring. Last is the speed. Don't be too fast and don't be too slow. Just set your presentation on the medium speed. Okay, and the next is expression and gesture. Expression. You can use expression on your face by give a little smile or maybe doing something like okay and it also shows that you are master your material of presentation. And the next is gesture. It's quite tricky when we talk about gesture. A presenter cannot only stand on the stage. It is allowed for the presenter to move a little bit, but it should be a duration. You can step in front for several times and then stop, continuing explaining something, and then for the next few minutes you can get back to the previous position. And you can also moving your arms or maybe turn left or turn right, it's okay. As I can say, you have to manage and control your body movement. Okay, let's continue. Communicative. It is also important for the speaker being communicate with his or her audience, give eye contact the audience. Um, in this frame, okay, let's continue. Now we are start to do the preparation before making a good presentation. This is the most important part as well. Prioritize on the first and the last 3 minutes on your presentation. You can put something important on your opening. How the way to make a good opening and good closing. Okay, let's start with good opening. Greeting. Before we discuss about greeting, like I mentioned before, that recognizing your audience is the most important part before start everything on the presentation. If you know well the audience that you want to talk with, it also can influence the greeting that you choose. I give several examples of greeting that you can use on your presentation, like good morning, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon, and so on. But if you are not recognizing your audience, it is quite difficult for you to choose which greeting that is precise used on your presentation. Okay, and then the next one on the opening is story or time frame. What does it mean? Time frame here will give a background information about your presentation. So by giving a story, your audience can guess what will you say, what will you explain on your presentation. And the story or time frame here can be about your experience or maybe someone else's experience, or maybe you can find the frame from the news when you read the magazine or newspaper, or even when you watch a news from television. And also in building a story, you can ask several questions, but I suggest you do not give them a question that is too hard. If you do this, you can grab audience attention, which is good. That's why I said before that the first 3 minutes is the most important part. You have to find or grab the attention from the audience. Okay, then if you finish with the three important part in the beginning of the presentation, then let's continue to the closing. What should we do? Yes, summarizing. There are several terms that you can use in summarizing your presentation. You can choose to sum up in conclusion and so on, but make sure on the closing of your presentation, you give a very clear point or message that you want to deliver to your audience. Okay, and thanking. Don't forget to thanking to your audience because they have give attention to your presentation. Okay, and then next, I would like to show you an example of good and bad presenter. We will discuss after watching the video. Here it is.
The British imposed a lot of unpopular taxes on the American colonists and didn't let them elect representatives to the British government. In retaliation, the Americans started to boycott British goods. In 1773, Americans in Massachusetts dumped a shipload of British tea into Boston Harbor. This became known as the Boston Tea Party.
Right, the first video showing that this presenter um, is not a good example of a good presenter. Okay, he always looking at the paper without giving eye contact to the audience, or he just ignore the audience all the times. And then the very big mistakes here, he forget to turn off his mobile phone, which is very disturbing. Okay, and then look at the way he speak. He always read and then ignoring the audience, and then all the words that he produced is not clear enough, which is not good at all. Then compare with the next video. Okay, here it is.
Good morning. Sometime in the early 1980s, a business traveller called a low-cost carrier called People Express to reserve a flight. He was kept on hold for so long, he thought to himself, either this airline is incredibly busy or incredibly inefficient. Needless to say, the flight was never booked, and People Express went out of business in 1987. The name of the business traveller was Richard Branson, who, recognizing a great business opportunity when he saw it, went on to launch Virgin Atlantic Airlines. And the rest, of course, is history. But my question to you is, just how bad does your customer service have to be to turn a potential client into a competitor?
Okay, all right. The second presenter try to communicate with the audience. She asks questions about the topic, and she also stand straight and then looking at the audience, and then try to manage her presentation very good. She produced a very clear speech and then give stressing a good intonation, which is make the audience easy to understand what she wants to talk about. So, guys, you can compare between two presenters here, the bad one and the good one, and then you can start to manage yourself, manage the preparation in doing the presentation. But first of all, you have to deal with yourself. You can ask yourself, you can convince yourself that you are able to conquer the stage, that you are able to face the audience as well. Okay, guys, I think that's all. And since then, thank you very much. See you. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.